Hi, I'm Peter Burrell, the author of Marriage by the Book. I was recently on a podcast called Better Than Not, where we discussed that book and my book, Free of Judgment. Here's some clips.
Can you, first of all, put up your books again? You've
Mhm.
got your Free of Judgment, which is the
Okay,
free.
this is Free of Judgment. Yeah, you can get this on Amazon in paperback. It's only 129 pages. I wrote in a large font so men can read it. So,
I have a
I've had
feeling.
people, I've had people in counseling or Bible study say, you really need to read this book, and they'll go, oh, I could read this. Yeah. So that's why I wrote it that way. There's
No,
even,
right on.
yeah, there's even pictures. So that's kind of like, if you get an
Oh,
idea, that's really what it's about. Okay.
oh, cool.
So, but it's a simple book, easy to get through. But honestly, the truth in that regarding, they're the things that put veils over your heart is judgment and unforgiveness. So I deal with the two. You can't give something you haven't received. So you have to receive, first of all, the freedom that comes from Christ bearing all your judgment, and I deal with that, where it comes from and how it's gone, and I deal with forgiveness. And you cannot forgive someone if you've not been forgiven. You have to walk in forgiveness. And if you don't, it's a form of judgment, really.
Yeah,
And
no, for sure.
you're deciding to be a judge, and it puts you. And why are those things a problem? Because they produce a fruit in us that will create condemnation, which will create separation, and that's what always happens. And God is trying to keep us in. It's kind of like to live this life. We talked about earlier. There's a physical and there's a spiritual world.
Yes.
We're made to walk in the spiritual. We're not made to walk in the physical.
Mm-hmm.
But if the very thing that if you keep doing the thing that disqualifies you from the spiritual, you're stuck in the physical. So until you can make that jump, and only by Christ, it's not like God's being exclusive. All right, I'm going to give you one chance. It's only this way. It's just there is only one way you can do it.
Yes.
It can't be about you. So if it's not about him, you're stuck in the physical. So by him, he takes away the veil. You now have free access to God, even when you're a screw up, especially when you're a screw up. Well, because you're always a screw up. So you can always walk in that access with God. And so if you do it that way, it's phenomenal. So that's what that book's about. And then this one is what I've been. Yeah, this is this is Marriage by the Book. It's pre-marriage and beyond guide to very good. This I kind of wrote this in a lot of it in mind for this is about 180 pages, 12 chapters, all different things. But I wrote a lot of it for pastors to give out when they have couples come for pre-marriage, because there really isn't a lot of resources.
Oh, that's cool.
There's lots of books on marriage. Okay, our marriage was horrible, then this is how God turned it around. Because that's how most marriage books are. But what if you don't want to go through horrible first? Can we just start good and just have good?
Yeah.
Like, no, that's what was created to be. And then see, out of that, you produce amazing children that produce amazing grandchildren. Oh. That this should be a generational blessing. And yet we break up families and we create generational curses out of it. And that's tragic. So the idea of this is, work your way through it. But it's also, if you're married, doesn't matter how long, just like that bit with Adam, that's going to change the way you look at stuff. And you've been married for 39 years, but you'll look at things a little bit different. Maybe it'll help your wife where she's maybe not spoken up, or maybe you need her to speak up more on stuff. And she says, I need you, because you'll find the only time you have issues is when one of you didn't speak up, and years down the road, there's a little resentment. Yeah, it does. You need to know going into it. We always say, my wife and I always say, you can go farther by yourself, but you can go or further or faster by yourself, but farther together. And that's and we may go slower, but sometimes we go faster, because if we're in agreement right away, we just act. We don't have to think about it a long time. We both agree, let's do it, because God's in the middle of that thing. Let's go. What are we waiting for?
Were the 12 chapters representative of anything?
Or is that I'm walking through the process. So if you look at, I said earlier, I kind of explain a few things with it to start off what you're going to experience. I give a little, like a testimony from where I came to now, so you don't think I'm all higher than mighty. I did screw up my own life before Christ. I went through all that other stuff. I tried both ways, but then I go from the Isha and Isha, the third dimension. We talk about the 3D stuff.
Okay.
The purpose of marriage, finding Mr. or Mrs. Right. The love covenant, the priority of marriage, why do you want to fight, the proper role of submission, which might not be what you think it is, God's kind of love, and then kind of ready, set, go. And then now we're going to make it happen. So it works so it's kind of taking you through finding a spouse, the marriage ceremony, what it's all about, working, what the covenants are about, this kind of thing, building just a biblical foundation for what marriage is supposed to be. So hopefully from that, you can have a great life. At least you've got at least you have something there. So in that moment when you're not acting out of your head and your heart just produces something, the feelings come out. It's not an emotion, but a feeling that comes out. Yeah. It's got something more than just what your parents put there or what Hollywood has put there, right?
And it's cool that you mentioned Hollywood. I think that's cool that you mentioned Hollywood, because I do think it has had a lot of impact in our world that we're not even necessarily aware of. Peter, it's been great chatting with you today. So is there a way, if a person wants to find out more about Peter Burrell, do you have a website? Do you have a place like an Amazon author page? Do you have anything like that?
There is. There's not a lot on that at this point, but what I do off the back of every book, I've got an email address there.
Oh, okay.
And it says, if you've got questions, email me at askunclepete@gmail.com. Oh, cool. And happy to answer any questions you've got. So can always do that. So my idea would be, as I go through this is my second career. So like going into retirement, now I have time to do these things, is that I want to do podcasts, but I want to do it more like not interactive like you're doing, not that brave, but I want to be able to answer questions online. So
now you have the basis for it. That's very cool.
Put out a couple of books. Now you have some things to talk about or criticize or question. Yep. And now I can go through the answers. I can take my time to give you a proper answer, and I can do a video on Ask Uncle Pete on YouTube. The channel is set up already. Just haven't launched it yet, but as soon as I start uploading videos to it, the videos will be answers to these kind of questions. That's kind of, does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I wish you all the success with that. Peter, in closing, do you have anything, like you've said an amazing number of great things here today, but do you have anything that you'd like to kind of, when you think for a moment, is there anything else you would like to say before we kind of wrap up things today?
I'm very hard for me to say something in just a moment, so as you can tell. So you better not get me started on something else. No, I think honestly we talked about something. I don't want to give away everything with it, but there's lots of good information. If this is your primary relationship on the planet, is your husband-wife relationship, Isha. And if you can operate as you were created to operate, where God can look at it and you can look at it, and you can both say very good, then you've got the starting of something else that's going to create a next generation and the next generation. We can turn it around. Marriage, I don't think we've got it right, to be honest with you, for a long, long time. And I think we've created the women's lib movement, the rebellion. Once there was the ability financially to go, why would you stay under a master-slave thing? It doesn't work. It's not a good system. And that's not what God designed it either. God designed it to be that you are in this together. You both have a perspective that's absolutely important and fundamental to walk out, but you have to be able to present it. So again, you can try to correct yourself from the exterior. Paul tried that. I'm fighting myself. I'm warring myself. When you weren't saved, when you were walking in the world, you didn't care about this stuff. Then you got saved. Now suddenly you're hyper vigilant about all this stuff. And it's like you're now judging everything. Well, like there's, our old pastor used to say, you jumped out of one ditch, you crossed through into the other ditch. And the trouble comes is that every mile of road, there's 2 miles of ditches. So it's really easy to do. So you just got to stay on the center of the lane and ride it out.
Beautiful.
It's a great way to do it.
Beautiful sentiment for sure.
Hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you've got a question, post it or email me. There's a link below.